Hey y'all, Ramdino here. Well, the Appalachian Trail NOBO is in force. The herd is moving north. And there is just a ton of people that are coming behind them. So in this episode today, we got stuff going on with NOBOs, we got stuff going on with trail news, we got stuff going on with registrations, and a lot of stuff. So hang on to your hats, let's go. All right, what's going on with the ECT? And these are folks that are on the Eastern Continental Trail. They'll soon be on the AT. So I know that Tom Hopper, he has completed 40 days on the trail now. He is rounding the corner there, heading up the panhandle of Florida. Next after that is going to be the Alabama Road Walk, and he is starting to head west toward Pensacola. It says the Ocala National Park was spectacular. Pine forest, palm forest, prairies, lakes, lions, tigers, bears. Oh my. He just had all kind of stuff he saw in there. Actually, he didn't see lions, tigers, and bears, and he didn't see any cougars either. But he did see a lot of the flora and fauna that he really liked. Said the temperatures dipped into the 20s one night, but they've gradually built back up to the 80s. Finishing the Ocala Northeast section on Saturday, and he is heading into Sewanee in the Big Bend section. On the AT, we got Two Beards. So Two Beards, a team of Two Beards, they are up in Pennsylvania, and they are doing what they can up in Pennsylvania because they're from that area. And then they're going to be flipping back down. So they decided to jump back south and do Pine Grove Furnace State Park and do a section there since the snow wasn't so deep there where they were hiking. They had 12-inch drifts on top of Peters Mountain. So they have dropped back down, and they are heading to Springer in a few days to start their NOBO hike. Blaze Dog, Tori, and they also had a buddy, Just Larry, who's just hiking with them for a few days. They have started at Amicalola Falls State Park, and they were numbers 61 and 62. And Just Larry, he has gotten off trail with them. They have made it to Gooch Gap. They got off trail for a few days to dry out, and they are back on trail now. They are RV hiking. So when I say it, what I mean by RV hike is they are staying on the trail. They're not yellow blazing or anything like that. They're staying on the trail. But every 2 to 3 days, they meet up with Blaze Dog's wife, who her trail name is Shows Up. So she shows up and meets them somewhere at a trailhead with an RV, and they dry out in that RV or change out clothes or resupply or take a Nero Zero, whatever, get out of the cold. I think that's a pretty cool way to do it. I am looking into doing that when I do my 3 hike in 4 years kind of is when my target date is. So, but that's pretty cool. Jay Woo, who, by the way, his trail name is Alias, and he is past Trey Mountain. As a matter of fact, he is north of Dix Creek. So he met up with Marty, and they stayed in the cabin in the woods, bed and breakfast one night. And then another thru hiker blew by them, Throttle, and she passed him at Unicoi Gap. But Alias thinks that he is probably going to hit Franklin Monday. But what was really cool was he sent me a text from the trail and said that he was crossing the North Carolina border in just a few minutes. So just a few minutes would put him right there on the trail just south of there. So it takes more than a few minutes to get there from the trailhead before the North Carolina border, which is Dix Creek Gap. So that was pretty cool. Appreciate you doing that, Alias. And he is probably going to get into Franklin a little earlier than he thought. Mushroom and Pink Hot Dog, they are heading to Hiawassee after waiting out the storm in Blood Mountain Cabins. So they have to be there by Monday or Tuesday. Now, Hiawassee, again, is right there at Dix Creek Gap. Again, the last trailhead before the North Carolina border. So they are almost done with Georgia. So congratulations to that. Old Goat, he is past Woody Gap, and he said the trail was icy, then wet. Got off for a few days, but he's back on now, and he is dry. Sam Shaw, he has made it through the Grayson Highlands in the Mount Rogers area. Had a lot of deep snow up there. Gorgeous, gorgeous views, but he is well north of there. Speed Goat, he got to Unicoi Gap and is probably north of Deep Gap Shelter by now. Says he's having a great time. The weather is amazing, and the views are spectacular. Says it's just so hard for pictures to do it justice. Aquaman, he is well into Vermont. He is our Sobo hiker right now. Our first one out there started really early, and he is over Killington Mountain. He wanted to send in a short update because his hands were cold. So again, right from the trail. Thanks a lot, Aquaman. That's awesome to get those right from the trail. But he made it through the snowstorm, said he got cold again up there, and he broke 15 miles of fresh snow. So breaking 15 miles for somebody who's been on the trail for a while doesn't seem like a lot, but breaking fresh snow particularly thighs, knees, wherever it is, that is a lot of miles. And he also said that his stove stopped working after he made dinner, so he had cold breakfast, but his spirits are still high as he pushes through Vermont. And happy trails to everybody. Several folks reached out to me that are trail angels and reached out to me saying they wanted to help the Two Beards up in Pennsylvania or Aquaman in that area. And so I greatly appreciate you trail angels reaching out to me. I have passed your contact information along to them, and they have, I don't know how if they responded to you or not, but if they chose to do so, I'm sure they did. So thanks for being willing to do that. If you're a trail angel out there, we'd greatly appreciate you being on my Trail Angel list, either public or private, and to put yourself on that list, those links are down below in the description section. So our registrations from the ATC continue to climb for hikers. So last week we had 2,638, and we're up somewhere around 100 to 2,737. Flip-floppers looks like we're up about 9 to 110, and Sobo we're up probably about 11 to 90. So that brings us a total up from 2,818 last week to this week 2,937. And we increased in our maxed out days out there. So we are maxed out for 9 days now instead of the 8 from last week. And more of those look like they are on the horizon. So I had a subscriber write in and leave a comment that said, do they stop letting people on the trail when you reach the max out point? And so there's no dumb questions here. That's a great question. Appreciate you asking that. And any other questions anybody has, let me know, and I'll pick one and answer that. But the answer to that question is no. They'd let 100 people a day get on the trail up there. But when you start getting, like, I think it's March 1st, we got 60 people on the trail. You start getting up in those double-digit numbers, that is a lot of people on the trail. Most of the shelters can only handle about 12 in the shelter, and then you've got, tent spots outside, but not enough for double digits like 60 or 20 or 30 people up there. So people will be all on top of each other. And the bubble is now starting. We're starting on the upper leg of the bubble. The bubble runs somewhere between February 10th and April 20th. And so that's a lot of people compressed into a small amount of trail, because everybody starts out and they're all in the first part of the trail. Of course, that will spread out as people get off, and then people have different paces. So that will spread out as people's paces. The fast people get front, and the people who are not as fast are behind. There's no race here. Last one to Katahdin wins anyway. But think about that when you got that many people starting on the trail. Like the first week in March, we've got over 220 people that are leaving that 1 week. So not only can the shovels, the shelter's not handling you, but think about it as it moves north, even with people dropping off, you still got hostels and stuff that people are going to try to get into when it's cold, get into when it's wet, and the hostels are not going to be able to handle that many people. So if you try to get into a hostel, you may get turned down. You may wind up, if they don't turn you down and they're just wanting to get the revenue there, you may wind up on the front porch of a hostel somewhere. So think about that. If you haven't already left, maybe you want to adjust when you leave, or maybe you want to adjust where you leave from and possibly do a flip-flop. Had a hiker that checked in and sent me a picture from the logbook. Greatly appreciate that. I always ask for that. I'm always certain to make sure that I blot out anybody's information so we don't give away having some type of identity issue going on there. Main thing I'm looking for is pack weight. So it looks like this particular week, last week, people were checking in. The average pack weight, according to the trail log, was 29 pounds. So we had a low of 18 and a high of 45. Now, 18 is pretty low. That would mean that, typically you're going to give for food, fuel, and water for 3 to 4 days. You're going to have a lot, 10 pounds for that. So that would put them at an ultralight weight, of 8 pounds. So not saying that didn't happen, but the trail log doesn't differentiate to let us know if somebody is a pack weight, which does not include food, fuel, and water, or if it's a trail weight, which does include all three of those. So certainly the 45-pounder, he better have included all those in there and then some. So starting next week, we got some hikers that are on our list that are starting next week. Mike Curtis, Picnic, Mischief, Adam Anderson, Artisan, Jim Mays, It's Just John and his hiking partner Tabitha, Janine or Jenny, Terminator, and Atticus Wheeler. All those are starting next week. So if you are not on that list and you're starting and you want to be on our hiker support list, there's a link down there that you can go to put yourself on that support list. And if you're one of the hiker community and you want to find that with everybody's social media links so you can follow along and give your favorite hikers an attaboy or an attagirl all the way through, you can go to that link and subscribe to their social media accounts and keep them spurred along all the way throughout their trek. So we got some trail news out there right now. The ATC has created yet another job position and is hiring, or actually 4 job positions. So they created a new executive level position called the Vice President of Regional and Trail Operations because, well, they just don't have enough folks working there now as it is, and nobody could assume that role. So they're just going to create a position there. Not sure why they wouldn't promote from within and maybe hire somebody to move, that was already functioning as the vice president or the vice president's helper up into that, but that probably makes way too much sense for them to do that. So it looks like they could just move that person from a lower level up into the higher level position, which would be an executive position, which I'm assuming comes with more pay. And then, of course, they could hire the lower level position, and then you would have the lower level position and the higher level position there. And this maybe eventually one of the higher level positions would just run off, and then we'd be back to square one where we were, not having to pay that. So just keep on remembering that, you folks that are out there, contributors to the ATC, just remember that you've got more mouths to feed on the ATC, Appalachian Trail Conservancy now. So, it just makes more sense to feed more people in human resources than it does to help out the trail, do more stuff on the trail, help out the shelters, or God forbid they help out hikers in some way, shape, or form. They've also decided they're creating 3 more positions. So they're creating positions of butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, and just because nobody was doing those positions either. So go ahead and check that out. You can go to their website and apply for all 4 of those positions. So update on the bear can program that I mentioned last week. I have a source down with the GATC who also is an ambassador for the trail and is a volunteer at Amicalola Falls State Park. So greatly appreciate this person. I'm keeping this person anonymous right now because I don't know if they want me to put their name out there. They are a subscriber, so if they do, let me know. I want to give credit where credit's due, and I greatly appreciate the information that you have given me. But they wanted to kind of update how the ATC was involved. So the ATC was involved in the bear can program. They instigated the program first with the GMC and then with the GATC, coordinated with a manufacturer of bear cans to get 90 cans donated to the program, and they're working to get more as that program takes root. Harpers Ferry, at the headquarters of the ATC there in Harpers Ferry, you will be able to pick up or return a can there. You can always just slap a mailing label on it if you want to return it. And it's a good option for people who don't know if they want to start hiking with a bear can or not. You can pick one up at Amicalola Falls State Park and then drop it off at Mountains Crossing or put a label on it anywhere else. If you want to stay at Blood Mountain or Woods Hole there, which are all trail north of Jared Gap, you're going to have a bear can to stay at those. So you would need one anyway. And then also this source wanted me to make sure, let everybody know that ATCO, which is the Appalachian Trail Kickoff, is happening. That's the first weekend in March at Amicalola Falls State Park. And basically, it's just a time for the hiker community to get together. There'll be vendors there. There will be classes there you can take. And more importantly, there'll be the hiker community there where you can come and hang out and just chat and have fire and have, I think Odie there one time made sock coffee. So if you're interested in drinking coffee that was brewed out of a sock in hot water, probably Odie's sock, no telling how many trail miles it has on it. But in any case, it was pretty good coffee though, Odie, so I appreciate that. And one of the things that I don't know about ATCO is the Amicalola Falls State Park is getting a new visitor center. And that's going to be happening here real soon. So the visitor center was bid several times, but the last bid was in January. Well, I work in the construction industry, and I know that in the construction industry right now, the way logistics are and the way that sub bids come in for general contractors, that those bids are, the general contractor typically has to keep his bid good for 90 days. Subcontractors don't. Theirs is good for maybe 48 hours if the general contractor's lucky. So that means that the folks up there, which is, I believe, is the Georgia DNR, Department of Natural Resources, which would be helping fund this, they have got to get under contract a general contractor right away, and he's got to get started right away, because even if he has a contract, general contract or subcontractors can bail if the prices go up. So what that means is the old one is being torn down and a new one built in its exact place and its footprint. So that visitor center was bid, and the low bid was $5,172,000. It's going to be in much bigger offices. All the offices are going to be inside, larger retail, larger meeting area, larger toilet areas. The toilet areas are a little further away from the visitor center than the last ones were, because hiker trash stinks, and hey, we don't want our stink getting on anybody that's just a regular old visitor coming in there, and that's cool. So they've got that there. They're also going to increase the parking, which they actually really did need. So there's no comments out there. Everybody knows the arch will stay there. I'm assuming that means a sign as well. There is going to be a hiker orientation area. There won't be any access to offices from the exterior, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work with people checking in, particularly when it's raining. They're going to let them come inside and check in when everybody's sopping wet. Don't know how that's going to work, but I'm sure if somebody down there at the state park knows, if they would get back to me. I did ask those questions of folks in the visitor center, and they didn't know, really didn't have much information for me at all. One of the questions I asked was, okay, since you've got the parking lot that's right across the street from the center, and you've got the grassy field where Tent City is for ADCO right across from the center, those make perfect staging areas and parking areas for construction equipment, and there's really no other areas nearby that do that. So where's ADCO? Where's Tent City going to be if all those areas are occupied? I can't see them not being occupied when ADCO's in March. It's going to take at least a year to build this center, and so where's ADCO going to be held? So I asked those questions. Nobody had any answers down there. And they referred me to the park manager and transferred me to the park manager. Park manager did not answer the phone, left a voicemail, had not received a call back, so maybe I will next week, maybe I'm not. Going to be interesting to see if anybody out there, my source, knows. That would be great to know how things are going to go with ADCO, but ADCO is supposedly going on. I do have a vidco of what ADCO is all about that I did maybe a year or 2 years ago, and it's just pretty much the same every year. So I'll leave that up above here at the end of this video so you can go and watch that and figure out what's going on with ADCO and find out that. So that's a lot of stuff going on the trail. Hope you enjoyed that. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out there.